Hey guys, this is just going to be a completely off-the-top video.
This is Clark's first video, which he posted about 4 months ago. Clark details his daily life with anxiety, as well as doing interviews with people from all around the world, where they discuss things like relationships.
And through your 20s you kind of go through that and throw into that a relationship that was it certainly wasn't unhealthy, but there were unhealthy traits to the relationship,
as well as racism.
When I see things, I just, I call them out. If it's not logical for somebody that's from a different background to benefit off the same system that other people are benefiting from, then I just basically call out the chains in their armor.
Clark has been keeping up with his videos ever since then, and he's made it all the way up to...
Welcome to day 20, welcome to day 30, welcome to day 40.
As I'm editing this video, Clark is up to 46 videos and counting. You can also check out Clark on Instagram, as well as check him out on Spotify, where he has his own podcast. All of the links to Clark's social media, as well as his Spotify account, will be placed right down below on the description. And if you are watching from Clark's channel, Mental Health is Wealth, go ahead and check out my channel, Mental Health Casual, and vice versa. If you're on my account, go ahead and check out Mental Health is Wealth. But we are here to talk about Clark's YouTube channel. And as a fellow mental health YouTuber, I decided to reach out and see if I could pick his brain a little bit about his own anxieties, and also maybe get some advice out of him about how he deals with that and the group of people that he hangs out with. Also, Clark is bilingual, so I talked to him a little bit about that as well. But without further ado, guys, let's get straight into the interview. All right, welcome everybody. Today I have a very special guest. As you can probably saw from the intro video that I'm actually recording after this, but we'll just go straight into this. So first off, your channel is Mental Health is Wealth, and
Yes.
so first off, I just wanted to get into what kind of made you first off start that, because I know you had mentioned something about a 5-day challenge, something like that. But what made you decide to keep going with it? Because not everybody just keeps on going with things when they just when they start with, maybe, I don't want to call it a fad, but a trend, that kind of thing.
For sure. So I guess I would say that it was a couple different factors for me. I had recently lost my job like during the coronavirus, and I'd been seeing this girl and it didn't really work out. And there was a few other things, I was just kind of in like I felt like I had been in kind of like a depressive state for a couple months preceding that. And that a few things kind of happened like all at once. And it was just kind of like, I need some sort of way to start expressing how I'm actually feeling, because up until that point, I, had a lot, have like a lot of friends, and I relate with people, but I don't tend to talk about myself as much, especially when it comes to like how I'm feeling about certain stuff. If somebody's like pissing me off, that's one thing, but talking about like depression or anxiety, entirely different thing. And I had up until that point kind of not been doing much of anything as far as explaining how I was feeling. Felt like I had kind of been drinking too much too. And, as we get older, like the hangovers get worse. And then it's like, you kind of feel good that night. And then the next morning, it's like, I feel 10 times worse than I did before I started drinking. And it wasn't like I was drinking to forget or anything, but I was drinking to like kind of feel better. But it just set me back and stuff like that. And I had a bunch of time on my hands. So I was kind of at a loss for what I wanted to do. And then I was like, well, I'm applying for jobs right now, but I don't have a job. So what can I do in the interim to like make myself better? Just more multifaceted, more like attractive to just like myself, other people, whether it be personal or professional. And I remember I went on HubSpot, and it basically just had a lot of articles, like I wanted to learn about like finance. I wanted to learn about making like videos and editing videos. And one of those videos on YouTube was a 5-day challenge that basically said like, over the next 5 days, kind of formulate an idea. And on the 5th day, record a video after you've utilized everything you learned in these like help videos, I guess you would call them. But I was like, at that point, I was just like so full of like the emotion and like baggage and just, I wanted to get a lot of stuff off my chest, and I didn't really want to like just have to go to school for 4 days basically. So I just decided I was going to make a video right off the rip, and it ended up being my longest video by far. And it was kind of just laid out like all the stuff I was feeling, and kind of just trying to come to grips with it. It was a very cathartic kind of, I treated it like a diary basically. And then I was just like, I didn't know if I should post it, but I felt like I had not really expressed any of my sentiments to anybody for so long that in order for me to feel like I broke the mold was to just send it out into the world so like everybody could see it, start from like 0 to 100. And, I think that it was the right decision. I know I was kind of wrestling with it at first. I was like, is this like some like popularity stunt, or like, I don't really know. Sometimes like when you have anxiety and stuff like that, you don't give yourself like the benefit of the doubt. But I was just like, you know what, I have to do this because like it's only up from here basically. I feel like if I do this, people might think that I'm a weirdo or whatever. They can think whatever they want to because I'm not happy right now. And I feel like this is going to be something that will help me move towards happiness by expressing myself. So I dropped the video and I got like a really good response on it. A lot of people reached out just saying, I was going through similar stuff, or I'm just going through stuff. It might not be the same stuff as you, but I just appreciate that somebody else is willing to talk about it and everything. And I think that was definitely the thing that made me want to keep going. I've always loved making videos, even like I'm 27. So like, I remember when there was camera phones that were like really not that great. You could take like 10, 15-second clips on them. I remember when I was little, I was always taking videos with them, making little skateboard videos and stuff. So it was kind of like it was like the natural form of media for me. I've always loved pictures and videos. So I was just like, you know what, I might as well videotape this. I'll do it super organic. I'm not going to edit it or anything. Like I'll just one take it. And I started to realize that like I had a lot of stuff that I like think about, and it's just always swirling in my head in the form of anxiety. But once I was able to like start talking, and like I was definitely nervous the first video, I started to feel more comfortable. Like I didn't need to write anything down. It just kind of let it flow out, got used to like the amount of time I wanted to talk. But I just felt like I had so many ideas and whatnot that I was like, well, why would I stop at one video? I can, make a video a day. And now I feel like because I did all that, I'm not like making them on the daily like I used to be, but I feel like I now know how to make the videos, and I want to really take my time with each video I put out, just because at the end of the day, like I'm going for quality over quantity here. So, and I want to actually say something that will resonate with people, not just like try to garner views or get another subscriber. I think I said it in the first video. I don't give a damn about any of that. It's just like, if I can positively impact one other person the way that I feel like it's positively impacted me, then that's more than worth it in my end.
Nice. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I watched a couple of your videos before, just to kind of make sure that I'm not going in here completely blind. One
Yeah,
of
no,
the
for sure.
yeah. So one of the things that I found very interesting, and this is alluding to an interview that you did with a one of your friends from New Zealand. I believe her name is
Yes.
Ree, and she
Yes.
said
Mhm.
something very like. It was one of those things. I get my mind blown a lot. I don't know if that's you too, but
Oh, for sure.
whenever somebody says something that's just so impactful, and it's like, that's me. Like that's you and me.
Yeah.
That's us. She had mentioned that 20, your 20s, because I'm 27 as well. Your
Hmm.
20s is the time for self discovery, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
was one thing where I was just like, man. And then you had made a quote. I believe it was in one of your more recent videos that said, "Self cultivation is one of the joys of life." I don't. I feel like a lot of people our age, within our 20s, aren't always looking at it that way. They're looking
Yeah.
at the more negative aspects of it. How do you kind of struggle with that in your day to day life, and even maybe more recently? I mean, we were talking off air that that you had just gotten a job recently. I mean, how are you
Yeah.
continuing to remind yourself about the lessons that you learned while you were unemployed, and the things that you did put out in those videos?
I think I think because I had so much time off and I forced myself to do it so consistently that it's literally kind of become like a part of my being. I have to practice Spanish every day. I have to do something physically healthy, or do some form of meditation. Like you kind of, once you make something habitual, it doesn't seem like an obligation. You know, it's something that you want to do. And when I say have to, I mean like you have a driving force within you, like you're motivated to. So I was lucky in the sense that I had a lot of time, but it definitely is easy to, you know, get lost in work and then, you know, feel uninspired at the end. Maybe you don't like your job, or maybe you're just dead tired by the, you know, the end of the day. You've been working for 8, 9, 10 hours or something like that. I would just say, like, remember the bigger picture, because life isn't just work. Like you need to have other endeavors and things that make you happy. And it doesn't matter if it's something that people might judge you for, like if you write poetry or something like that. Like, as long as it makes you happy, you have to remind yourself that, like, whatever, you know, other obligations you have that will like take away time from you, whatever society thinks about what you're doing, like you have to recognize that, you know, you have your job and that's important. Like, you want to do the best you can at that, but don't let that take away from the stuff that makes you truly happy. And don't let other people who might not understand what you're doing allow you to, like, you know, get put out of pocket, like, or jockeyed out of your position. Like, if it's what you love doing, just remind yourself of that every day. Whether I wrote at the beginning kind of my mental health journey, I wrote down on a piece of paper just some positive affirmations, which, you know, if you had asked me like a year ago, I wouldn't have thought it was like, you know, weird or anything, but I would have just been like, yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. Like, I wouldn't see the benefit. But it's amazing when you write something down and like kind of look at it, like seeing your thoughts on a piece of paper versus just kind of swimming around on your head. Like, it helps you put stuff into perspective. So I would also recommend people, if they can, like, have a little schedule they write down. It doesn't have to be like, you know, at 5:10, I'm going to make a video for YouTube, and at 6 o'clock, I'm going to post it. Like, but just say like some stuff that you want to achieve during the week, and put down like the stuff that you love doing. And I mean, if you love it and like that's what you love doing, like, you'll make time for it. Like, even if like you lose a little bit of sleep or something, and the trade-off with the sleep is that you're doing something that gives you fulfillment. So you're not just like beating your head against the wall when you wake up every day, like feeling as if, you know, there's not really anything exciting to live for.
So one of the things that I thought was interesting about the way that you record your videos. I mean, you do them all mostly in your car. I think there was a couple where
Yeah.
you were inside. And you had mentioned, in one of your videos that, you would, whenever somebody would walk by, you'd kind of hide your camera,
Yeah.
to kind of hide from that. Do you think that that kind of exposure is something good? Because you had mentioned in another one of your videos is that you kind of just have to, go for it sometimes, and it's all
Yeah,
about
for real.
taking risks and realizing the risk versus reward ratio, but ultimately taking that first step. And I feel like that's kind of, I mean, that's kind of like the story of YouTube in, in a lot of ways,
Exactly.
and a lot of these journeys. When you're talking about taking the first step, did you ever expect, because one thing that we did in high school was, that was, man, that was 10 years ago. Man, I feel old
Yeah,
right now.
seriously,
I
crazy.
we wrote these wrote these letters to ourselves,
Okay, yeah.
and our teacher would mail them out like, 10 years later or something like that. And I got mine about 3 years ago, and I was like, oh my god, like, I can't believe I kind of like predicted the future. It was literally just me saying to myself, like, don't forget about your family. I know that you're sad right now. And this was about, I wrote this, I think, 5 months before I went to the hospital for anxiety and depression
Uh-huh.
and mania, all that kind of stuff. So it really hit me deep. Do you see these videos as something like that? Like the videos that you're doing right now is something
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
you can go back to and be like, oh, like, wow, I just taught myself something, and that's me
Yeah.
from the past.
So I mean, I started this in, I think, May. So it's, you know, been a few months, and just the difference that I feel is super tangible. But then when you look back, you're almost like you're talking to yourself in like the third person. You're like, hold on, man, it's gonna be all right. Like, it's gonna get better. Like, I definitely feel that. I definitely see my progression just from the videos. And going back to your point about me like doing it in the car, and sometimes like on my initial videos, like putting the camera down. Like, I initially did it in the car because I thought that that would be so like no one could hear me. Like, I was already self-conscious about making the video, period. It just sort of became like my like little spot, because I was starting to realize like, wait, I'm always in the car. Like, when I make these videos, I might as well just make it my spot. Like, now I feel good about it. Like, I could do a video in a house or something, but it's like I've kind of found my little spot. And like that in and of itself, like if you kind of see my earlier videos, kind of like looking around, like I like will acknowledge if someone walks by. Like first it was like I kind of just stopped talking, and then it became I acknowledge them on the camera, like, hey, someone's walking by, but I'm just not going to pay attention. And now it's just like I don't even pay attention. At some point you kind of just like you said, you take that first step. It's a little shaky. You don't know where your foot's going to land. But once you start to realize, like, even if somebody were to start knocking on my window and like calling me an idiot or something, like, I just don't give a damn. Like, but beforehand I did. And sometimes like you just have to take that leap of faith and determine like what's more valuable, me expressing myself and feeling better, or me caring about like what other people are too afraid to do, so they're just going to ridicule me. And then in the end, I didn't even get ridiculed. Like, you know, I had a lot of people reach out to me, family members who I thought wouldn't even want to look at it, to, you know, people I hadn't spoken with in 10 years. So I would say like, just put yourself out there, and like, it's going to be rocky at first, but once you kind of start to realize that other people's opinions are much less important than your overall mental health, regardless of what it is, you know, I would say to just go for it.
Yeah, definitely. One of the reasons why I really wanted to reach out to you, of course, I'm reaching out to multiple YouTubers, but one of the things that I feel like is kind of I don't want to say downplay, because there is a lot of things, you know, a lot of information about this, but one of the things that I feel like isn't being looked at enough is the correlation between mental health and the rise of social media.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there was this gentleman. I didn't look up the numbers because I'm casual apparently, so that's why my name's mental health casual. There we go.
I know.
But
I don't even edit my videos, so I, you
yeah.
know.
So and he was saying that one of the the biggest groups hit by suicide and depression and anxiety are young women, because of the
Yeah,
fact they compare themselves, and you know they you know, on Instagram, you know, whatever it might be, and you know, on those social media outlets, a lot of times you're not take you know, you don't take a bad picture, and if you do, you delete it, and
exactly.
you take a perfect
Yeah.
picture, and you have Photoshop now, you have all this kind of stuff. As and you had mentioned in one of your videos that social media is kind of like an echo chamber. It's one of the ultimate echo chambers, if anything, just because you can kind of you know, you're kind of anonymous. You know, nobody can punch you in the face if if you're rude on there.
Exactly.
So what's been your because I believe you have like an Instagram, but you're not too, you know, active on in social media in general.
Yeah.
What do you see for the future of people, you know, in terms of mental health and social media?
Uh, I mean, that's a good question. I definitely feel like it's going to continue to have a negative effect simply by the nature of social media. You can like make it look better and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of triggering those same reactions in your brain, as far as like, oh, look at that person. Why do I not look like them? Or why am I not at this point in my life when they're like, you know, 5 years younger than me? Or, you know, a host of questions that you could ask yourself. I just don't think that there's really any way for social media to be made, one, completely healthy, two, completely unbiased. Look at Facebook, for example, like, and just like the amount of like fake stuff that gets put on there and it's just claimed to be fact. Or I think like with the echo chamber stuff too, like you can listen to who you want to listen to. If you don't want to hear something, even if it's like something that you know is like dead ass wrong, like if somebody were to say like something racist, for example, like you can, like in real life, like you can react to it, but in social media or something, you can just block it out. So it's like literally not even like it's not a real world. You can associate yourself with people that are great. Like for example, what we're doing now, that wouldn't have been possible without social media, you know, connecting two different states far across from each other and talking about mental health. So there's definitely positive stuff, but it's like one of those things where it's almost like it's a neutral tool, but in its nature, like it's going to be used for bad and used for good. And then there's the people that are in the middle of it that are just being pulled in either direction. You have like the negative influencers, the positive ones, and they're kind of vying for the attention of people. And some people will be, I think, moved to do really good acts by it. They might see somebody who inspires them. You know, I don't know, someone who lost like 150 pounds, they want to go out and, you know, for the sake of themselves and their families and whatnot, lose that weight and do something great. But then on that same token, there's, you know, stuff on Instagram and whatnot that leads people to anorexia or bulimia. So, you know, it's I want to say it's like kind of neutral, but then there's also examples where people just like kind of hack into it and put out propaganda or, you know, negative like racist stuff, for example. And it's just like at the end of the day, it's like a tool, so it doesn't necessarily have intentions. But like sometimes I feel like the creators of these tools are kind of, you know, puppeteering everything, and you know they know what they're doing. They know what's going to get the most views. They know what's going to get the most revenue streams, you know, driven to them. So I mean, you see the memes of like Mark Zuckerberg and stuff. It's like a lizard and like a robot, and it's just like it kind of feels that way sometimes, man. Like it's just like the evil Sith Lord that's kind of behind the scenes and just putting this like these tools in play and just seeing what people will do with them. So I think that mental health is probably going to get worse due to social media. But on the flip side, I think because it's less of a taboo topic, that people are going to be more willing to speak about it. That being said, I don't know if besides speaking on it, they're going to be doing anything more positive. Like I still think people are going to abuse drugs and alcohol, or and I also sometimes feel like there's like a sad culture, and like not hating on anyone, but some people like almost like think of it as like a badge of honor to be sad or something. Like being sad sucks. Like I don't wish that on anybody. So like sometimes I worry about that, but I mean, it is what it is. You're not going to be able to understand everybody, and I just hope that like with social media, people will take the good stuff from it, but understand like there are kind of inherent dangers in using it. And like we started using social media and like what Facebook came out in like '06, I want to say, something like that. But
Yeah,
like I
something
remember
like that.
my cousin was like, she's like probably 14 now. She was like 2 years old and like a wizard with an iPad, and I'd never even like used an iPad before. It's just stuff that kind of like I was like, you know, outside doing stuff then, like, and I don't want to sound like an old man or anything, but like sometimes you just worry. You kind of have to have that balance, right? Like where you have time to develop and like grow in your creativity and your imagination and stuff. And then like when you're a little older, use it. So I think like in high school, it starts to become like more accessible. Like if you're not using it like as a young person, but maybe that's just because I didn't start using it until high school, and it hasn't completely screwed me over in the way that I feel like it's kind of affected people that are maybe like, you know, 5 years younger than me, even just because they kind of even from a very young age had access to it. And it just kind of warps your mind a little bit. You're always comparing yourself to other people, trying to get likes, even though like you could post the dopest thing ever and only get like 5 likes, doesn't mean it's any less dope. But like it's all about the likes and the influencing and stuff. So yeah, I think that it'll be interesting just because, like I said, mental health is becoming more of a legit topic now. I won't say legit, but a more recognized topic that people are willing to speak on. But as technology becomes more like, has more of a vice grip, I guess, especially social media, I think that that'll be like the yin to the yang, so to speak.
Yeah, it's interesting you were talking about that like quote unquote sad culture.
Yeah.
I definitely so when I was in the hospital, I met all kinds of people, and there
Hmm.
were some people that I remember they had kind of made us like a circle of like never getting out of the sadness. It's like it was
Hmm.
basically setting up traps for themselves. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
know I'm not going to be good enough for this. I know I'm not going to be good enough for that. I know I'm not going to be good enough for that, so I won't try it. So it goes back to kind of what we were talking about taking that first step. And with technology, I mean, first off, I'm no one to talk about technology. I didn't get a smartphone until February of last year
Dude,
because
honestly,
I was so afraid.
that's pretty impressive to me. I think that that's like a very good thing in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
I was so afraid, just because I haven't had a Facebook for maybe since like maybe 8 years or 7 years, just because of I was
Yeah.
doing the same thing. I was comparing myself to everybody. I was like, dude, this person went away for college. Why am I going to community college? You know, you just start to compare.
Yeah.
You start to go down the list. This person has a great job. This person's married. What in the world am I doing with my life?
Yeah, but you never know behind closed doors what they're going through.
Exactly,
But
exactly,
you
and
forget that.
yeah, and it's funny. I didn't learn until later that some of them were in much darker places than I thought. Not saying that I was celebrating that or anything like that. It was just,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, so you're just like me. That's
Yeah,
weird. So yeah.
put stuff in perspective for sure.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, going away from our generation, is you had mentioned a golf game that you had with your uncle and your father, and kind of diversifying who you hang out with. I heavily relate to that because a
Yeah.
good amount of the people I speak to, I don't really hang out with anybody, not because of the virus and everything, but are mostly like people over the age of 40 at this point.
Yeah, dude,
And
they can teach you a lot.
yeah, and so would you talk a little bit about that, and how maybe about your support network, because I feel like that's something that's overlooked a little bit with mental health. It's not
Definitely.
just you that's affected by your mental health, it's also the other people around you, and they can also, in some cases, of course, it's up to you to make yourself better, but also if you don't have a great support group, it could be a lot harder.
Definitely. Well, I want to just preface one thing I said earlier, just regarding like sad culture and whatnot. I meant that more towards like I don't know if you ever see it on like social media and whatnot, but they're just like hashtag like sad boy or sad girl.
I've heard
And
of
it's
it.
like, sometimes it's like that they might just be saying that, they might not actually be going through stuff, but
Attention seekers.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I would never say like
Yeah.
somebody specifically because I don't know what they're going through, but I can imagine that some of that is kind of like a veil, kind of like they want to seem like edgy or something.
Mm.
But I would never like say like, oh, if someone said they're sad, I'll take it at face value, like I'll believe them. And also like there's a scientific, basis for things like depression with the biochemical like responses to certain things and whatnot. So I want to just like make sure that everyone knows I'm not downing on anybody who's going through anything, because I definitely go through stuff too.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
going back to what we were talking about afterwards, as far as like support networks and the importance of that. First, want to just say that even though like your parents and whatnot might have like the most love for you and everything, unless they're like a psychiatrist or something, sometimes it makes the most sense to actually go and see a psychiatrist, even if you have the best support network ever, because I mean they can't magically change your brain. Like sometimes like you need professional help, whether it be through a form of medicine or some sort of therapy. So but as far as the importance of a support network, my personal story was that I've always kind of been like I said, keep it to myself type deal. So even though I have like family and friends who love me and whatnot, sometimes I'd be like, yeah, but they don't want to hear about this. Like it might like freak them out, or they might just not give a shit. Like let's be real. And basically I kind of just like through doing these videos and then getting like reached out to by like, my aunt and like, people that like I would never like necessarily have these conversations with. Like it made me realize that like one, mental health is a universal thing. It doesn't matter if you're 27, 15 or 55, like people go through stuff, and just because one person goes through more stuff doesn't mean what you go through is not that, a valid pain or whatever. But it also just kind of made me feel like a lot more connected to people that were older than me. I've always been like polite and good with like older people because I have good manners and I'm interested in learning about what they've got going on. But that was kind of like the first time where I was really like, wow, like just because you're like, twice my age or whatever, but you understand what I'm going through. It doesn't matter if like you're a woman or whatnot, like you kind of understand what I'm going through. And it just made me feel a lot more connected, I guess, to like my family members and my friends, and understand that just because like I'm at this certain point in my life, like somebody who is older than me can't help me, because at the end of the day, they've been through it. Sometimes I discount that. I discount, somebody could be 70 years old and not done anything in their life, but like they've experienced more than you, because simply from the fact that they're older than you, and they've seen some stuff. Whether or not they're able to kind of take that wisdom and impart it on you, like by telling you, or you can just see them and see what they're doing and learn what not to do. Like there's always an opportunity to learn. But I would say, at least for me, and I know that not everybody has a big support group, so, but I would definitely say like if you can, like try and do stuff with like-minded people. If like you don't have anybody in your circle, or you're looking to expand your circle, I would highly recommend meeting people doing stuff that you love doing. If you're an artist, join an art group. If you're a a singer, join a singing group, join a sports team if that's what you're into. But like you'll be able to kind of build out friendships because you're both doing something that you love and you're kind of in your element while you're doing it. So I would say, as far as expanding your networks and whatnot, your friend groups and whatnot, I would say do that. But just recognize that people do care about you, and like even though they might be in a different part of their life or have like an entirely different identity than you, doesn't mean that they don't care about you or that they couldn't understand at least at a certain level what you're going through, or at least empathize. Because sometimes all you want is, you don't need somebody to explain anything to you. You just want them to understand that they know that you're going through something and that they've got your back. Like sometimes that's all it really takes, because then that can help you kind of refocus and not feel that sense of like despair. Kind of be like, all right, well, at least I do have some people in my corner, and maybe I am actually capable of doing this thing I didn't think was possible. So I would definitely say sometimes, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with taking a leap of faith. Sometimes you just got to ask. You can't assume that everyone's going to know you're going through something. You might have the best poker face ever, or like you were saying, like with just taking pictures on Instagram, you see the best aspects of their life, but you don't know what happens. Like as soon as that camera flashes, like they might have started crying, or they might have got into a fight with someone. So
Yeah, I mean that's really well said. I was just because I was just thinking, I mean, it was literally my mom that had to drive me to the hospital because I had lost the
yeah.
ability to speak because I was having an anxiety attack, which
Hmm.
for people that don't know, it's very hard to explain it. It just kind of happens, and in my case, it was a lot of different things. But thank God my mother was there, and thank God that there are a lot of support groups for these people. But like you were saying, it is very, depression is very hard because it's hard to, I was talking to this about this with another YouTuber that, you go to the doctor and you fix your elbow, they can tell you, get an x-ray and all that kind of stuff. It's really hard to diagnose these things without, a while to analyze you and do that kind of thing. So my hat goes off to all the professionals that are doing
Oh
this
yeah.
stuff, especially
Salute.
especially during the pandemic. That's with and I was reading somewhere that during the pandemic, just like probably with anything where there's a higher death toll, the people affected by that, their mental health issues go up as well. So we're seeing
Yeah.
a rise, unfortunately, with relapses. I'm sober right now, but there's a high relapse just because one of the number one things they tell you when you're sober is one of the worst things that can happen is self isolation, and obviously
Yeah.
this is a tough time for everybody.
What
So
what what's the phrase? It's like idleness is the devil's tools or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, idle
Yeah.
hands are the devil's workshop. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So
it's tough, man.
that's true.
But I mean, I guess that's kind of what we're trying to do here is trying to give people something to kind of relate to and be
Yeah.
candid, which I appreciate. One of the things that that I was when you had mentioned something in one of your videos. By the way, you had mentioned a samurai game. Were you talking about Ghost of Tsushima, or is that a
Yeah,
yeah?
I played that. I like samurai games, so I played like Sekiro and a few
Oh,
other
nice. Yeah,
games.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was trash at Sekiro. That probably
it's a hard game.
that probably
I,
raised my
I
mental illness a little bit.
yeah, I beat all the Souls games, and
Oh, for
I
sure.
would say Sekiro is the hardest.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but going back to that, you had mentioned the importance of adaptations.
Uh-huh.
Going through your life. Some things are changing. We had just talked about technology changing. I had to change. I had to get a smartphone because they were actually cheaper than the flip phone. So I was like, oh well, I
Yeah.
guess I got to do that. With that kind of going on, do you think? I'll tie this into my question in just a little bit, but I had asked another person that also struggled with anxiety. Do you
Hmm.
see could you see your anxiety as a strength? And what I meant by that when I was asking him was just when I was doing things, I did. By the way, I talk about this a lot on my channel. I just want to be very clear. So
Uh-huh.
I practiced MMA, but I was very, very beginner level. Didn't do any cage fighting or anything like that. Just just basic stuff in the gym. And one
There
of
you
the
go.
things that I noticed with my social anxiety was that I pick up on physical cues like social cues, but
Yeah.
people make a lot of the same cues when they're when they're boxing, when they're kickboxing, when they're grappling. And so I
Uh-huh.
was able to pick up on those, even though I wasn't always right. I would notice there was something. I noticed, oh yeah, his because I'm paying attention to every little thing because I'm so anxious.
Yeah.
That I
Okay.
all of a sudden
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'd see his shoulder twitch, and I would know to get out of the way, that kind of thing. Do you see your
Uh-huh.
anxiety as a possible strength, and how would you explain that in your own way?
Okay, that's a great question. And I can definitely say that I relate to as far as being like hypersensitive towards like visual cues, as far as like facial expression, which can sometimes, as you said, be deceiving because like I mean, for me, like I have the male version of resting bitch face, but like if you talk to me, like I'm very happy to talk. It's just sometimes like, but and like you know, perfect example for me, like when, especially when I was younger, like, I might like think that a girl like was looking at me in a certain way, like in a negative way or something, but it might have just been neutral or something. And like, I didn't take a chance or something. So for all you guys watching out there, guys and gals or otherwise, uh, sometimes you got to ask a question. Anxiety can make you kind of assume things sometimes and then you act on it. So just as a precursor to that, as far as something that can be good about anxiety, um, well, in a physical sense, it like literally charges you up a bit. Like you can't like sleep. Like it kind of makes me at least like I have to do something. So like it makes me hyper energized, I guess, which can be good if like you need to be alert and everything. Um, and I think that sometimes it like overcomes my like inertia as well. Like I'll have anxiety about like getting up a little early or something. Like I need to get up early, so like it'll force me to get up early and like I'll be more productive. I just wish that there was a way for me to kind of control my anxiety. It manifests itself sometimes at the right time, like you forgot to set your alarm and your internal anxiety clock woke you up because you're like, I can't sleep through this alarm, and you end up waking up like 2 hours before you were supposed to even wake up. But it's one of those things that you from like a scientific level, it raises the cortisol in your body, and like that has like negative effects over a long period of time. So um, while it does have some good stuff, like you were saying with MMA and like just being kind of hyper aware of like, it makes you like more emotionally intelligent because you're just looking for cues. But the problem is sometimes you misinterpret the cues, and then you start assuming stuff. So I would just say it makes you it kind of does give you a little boost of strength, and it makes you more aware of at least visual cues and whatnot. But it's at your discretion how you want to interpret those. So if you interpret them correctly, then it can be honestly great. But you just don't want to turn that on for a long period of time if you can help it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have two more questions for you. One, I mean, obviously you had alluded to this before. You are bilingual, and one of the things that fascinates me is just other cultures in general.
Absolutely.
And I was in when I was in high school, and a little bit after that, I was in a mariachi band. Never spoke Spanish,
Nice.
and no, I kind of blended in pretty well. But once people started speaking Spanish to me, they figured out something was wrong. But one of the great things about it was just even though they didn't understand me, they understood that I loved their music. They understood,
Oh yeah.
I was getting pictures with people and I wasn't even famous. Like that threw me off really hard. One of the interesting things I think about being bilingual, because I'm not, but whenever I see like these YouTubers, posting up like bilingual, or they're like polyglots, and they're doing like
Uh-huh.
VR chat, and they're talking to people from other cultures,
Yeah,
is
it's
just how,
crazy.
yeah, just how, I mean, like how you know kind of united we are. I mean, once you get past the language barrier, there's a lot of similarities between people. Obviously cultural differences happen,
Oh
but I
yeah.
just wanted to ask you, as a bilingual person, and as somebody, I know that you do have like an all Spanish speaking group on the side.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
what is that like, and what have you learned from those experiences?
Well, so when I graduated school, I worked in Argentina for a summer. So I like lived with people from like all over the world, mostly Argentinians, but also like people from Europe and like Bolivia and a few other countries. And the first thing that you start to realize as you get to know people is there are definitely like a few basic things that people want. People want to feel like they're progressing in life. People want to be happy. People want to feel loved, and they want to feel valid. And that's something that, irrespective of culture or whatever, like that is a universal thing across the board. So once you start seeing it in those terms, all of like the rhetoric about like illegal immigrants and all that BS, like that goes out the window, because you realize that they're just another person on the other side of the coin. Like they're just going through something different, but like they have the same desires. Like, do you think they want to leave their country, for example? Like, who wants to leave their country if they don't have to? Like, they're clearly escaping something bad because their desire for being loved and safe and all that stuff is not being met. And they're looking for a better life for themselves and, their kids if they want to have kids. My Spanish group has been great because basically it has like a very wide array of people, different backgrounds, different ages, but we're all united by our love of Spanish and our desire to like practice. And there's even some natives that are on it. And I'm just like, well, I'm curious as to why like you want to speak with us. And they're just like, well, I have to speak like English all day at my job. Like I want to speak my own language and stuff. And I never really thought about that because, like I speak it, I'm fluent in it, but it's my second language. And like sometimes I was just like, wouldn't you just want to speak with your friends? But then I'm thinking to myself, like maybe like some of them moved here from like Costa Rica or Peru, and like they don't have their Peruvian and Costa Rican friends here. So they spend most of their time speaking English with their friends in America. And it's just like a way for them to kind of speak their first language again. And like I'd never thought that would be a reason for, or at least in my head, I didn't really understand why they would want to, spend an hour with us, but it made sense after that, but it just, like I said before, when you're kind of have like a common bond, you're able to just really get to know people. People are in their element. They're speaking freely. There's no like anxiety in the group and whatnot. At least like on the surface, people are all participating, and it just goes to show you that it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. Like if you love something, like you should go out and do it, and it's going to make you feel better. And sometimes like I'm feeling kind of lazy, but as soon as like I start speaking with the group and then like it's over, it's like going to the gym. Like you never regret going to the gym. It might take a little bit of like, I got to get myself up and go and do it. But once you're in motion and everything, like you feel right at home. And that's what I've kind of gathered from doing the Spanish group. Just a whole lot of people from a whole lot of different backgrounds who have a unified love for Spanish and have a common desire to get better and to practice.
Nice. So my last question is pretty much, I do this with everything. Just some final advice. Obviously, you gave some great advice throughout this whole thing, so thank you very much. Just some final advice for people that are going through this, that are maybe about our age, that are also
Yeah.
going through anxiety, and what you think. I don't know what you think is important in your experience, and what has helped you, and what could possibly help them.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, mid to late 20s is like a hell of a hard time. Like you're really doing like some soul searching, because like, especially if like you have anxiety, it's like this. If I feel like my future isn't like, determined, or I'm like, really moving straight forward, like I get anxiety. And like, we're young though, like we shouldn't know exactly what's going to happen. Like, and we have no ability to know that. We're not psychics or anything. So I think sometimes, at least for me, like I was just so focused on the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be, instead of taking that energy in a positive way and just starting to move forward, just by not like feeling this sense of doom. Like you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to wake up the next day, and you owe it to yourself to treat yourself well. You might treat other people well, but not give yourself the same benefit of the doubt. Give yourself the same benefit of the doubt. Recognize that Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes a long period of sustained, consistency, and that even if you're like 27, like you're not going to have your whole life planned out. Like who the hell, like nobody does. Even like the people that you think do, are the same ones that, you know, they might be a celebrity, but by the time they're 40, they're burnt out. So like, you have to remember that this is your life and you just got to take baby steps. It's really, you can't compare yourself to other people. I don't care if they're in like the same field as you, like just try to be better each and every day and compete with yourself. Don't compete with other people.
Yeah, well said, man. Well, if for anybody watching this on, I'm also going to give this over to Mental Health is Wealth as well. So anybody watching on his channel, you can go over to my channel as well, Mental Health Casual. And anybody watching on my channel, you can go check out Mental Health is Wealth. And once again, thank you so much for doing this video, man. I can't tell you how happy I was when you actually replied to me. And yeah, man,
My pleasure, man.
yeah, we'll keep the good vibes going as we try and navigate this crazy time, man. Thank you once again.
Good stuff. I'm gonna try and get Lucky on my channel too. I think I can tell just by the conversation we had that he's got a lot of great stuff to say, a lot of poignant stuff. So it's been a pleasure, man. I will make sure to show the people the work that you've done. Everybody subscribe to my boy if you haven't. Yeah, let's keep this positive mental health stuff going, because that's the wave.